Thank you for coming on the podcast today, everybody. This is a new episode of Canadian Talk 136. Today we have Diana Alisa. Is that how I pronounce it?
It's actually Diane, Alisa.
Alisa. Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool. You are an author from Utah. You
Yeah.
wrote a book called Love Letters to Suburbia. Anybody, if you want to find her, you can find her on Instagram at Diana_Alisa. And yeah, go buy her book, Love Letter to Suburbia. Today, I've got lots of questions for you. I've watched some of your videos. I can't remember specifically what got me onto your content in the first place. Like, I think I may have just caught one of your videos on Instagram and been like, "Oh, that's interesting. This person looks like they have some unique points of view." And then I went to your page and I saw some of your videos where you're talking a lot about you have strong critiques of modern society, if I
Hmm.
could say that. So, but yeah, I thought they were interesting, and I wanted to get you on just to kind of pick your brain a little bit. So, thanks for coming
Of
on the show
course.
today.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I see you brought on your little one, so that's
Yep.
kind of cool. Um,
Mother on the go.
yeah, how many kids do you have?
I have three.
3 kids. Wow, wow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
They're very little. Yeah. My oldest is 2.5. So he's the cover. He's on the cover of the book.
Oh, is he? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Hmm.
So, how has it been what's it like to have 3 kids? I guess is what I'm getting at.
You feel like you're drowning, and then people hand you more babies.
Oh no.
But it's actually gotten a lot easier as my eldest has gotten older. I think the hardest transition was from 1 to 2, because they were both so little and demanded all of my attention. But now that we have the third one, she's extremely content, and the two boys are running around and
Oh
playing
yeah.
with each other on their own now. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So, when did you become a writer?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I'm known
Well,
for my simple questions.
I I guess I started writing in high school. I joined a competition called NaNoWriMo. I
Okay.
actually don't know if it was a competition, but it was a program that you wrote 50,000 words in the month of November. And I tried to write a novel. I've always really loved writing. And then I actually didn't pursue writing. I almost did. I almost got an English degree, but it didn't quite feel right. And so I did musical theater acting instead. And all during that acting degree, there's a lot of writing when it comes to that degree. You're reading a lot of theater, um, doing a lot of critical thought about political movements and culture. And so that was really the foundation for this book. And then I wrote a musical in 2021
Oh
called
yeah.
Lois.
Okay,
So
cool. Yeah, it's like one of those things like how you play sports and you can't help but become competitive. Just like how you go into musical theater and everybody's so politically active nowadays, you can't help but getting involved in all the political stuff, you know?
yeah, it's really hard. My major was extremely political. It was actually
What what
kind
was
of a
your
hard
major?
thing for me.
Okay. What was your major?
So acting, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
that's a major. Okay, got you, got you.
yes.
And you consider that to be incredibly political.
It was,
Well, I
yeah.
guess acting in nature is kind of political, right? I guess you don't think about it like that when you're younger, and then you get to like our age, and it's like, okay, I guess movies really are like, I don't want to say modern day propaganda or anything like that, but they really are in large part trying to send a message.
Yeah.
And inevitably it's going to be considered political whether you like it or not, and no matter what role you take as an actor or whatever, right?
Yeah, no, I think theater is a really good avenue for truth. I think I've learned a lot of things, watching movies, watching theater,
Yeah, me too.
and it's so important to me. I just love the body moving to tell a story. It's really exciting for me. But yeah, I stopped doing that once I had my first baby, and then I wrote my book. And hopefully I can return to theater in a little bit, but it's just not my season. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
actually something in my book. It's just that women have seasons,
Okay.
and we should embrace those seasons.
Okay.
So
um what inspired you to write this particular book? Like in terms of this particular book that you wrote here, what what brought you there? Like what gave you the idea, stuff like that?
So I've always kind of been bothered by the things in my book. I just didn't really have language for them. like I think that the state of Utah is really ugly,
Yeah,
or at least I thought it was. And then people were like, "No, it's so beautiful, the mountains, and
yeah,
it's green up north." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess you're right." But I had been so focused on suburban layouts, like the McDonald's and the WalMarts and the parking lots and the freeways and the
yeah.
identical housing, that I was like, "This is the ugliest place in the world."
Yeah, yeah. I was
uh,
trying my best to not have today's podcast just turn into me promoting you to like move. Because
yeah,
at the end of the day, like that would be what some people might say to you. Cause like I did a little bit of research and stuff and like Utah, it's about probably a quarter of the size of Saskatchewan where I'm from.
hmm,
Um, and it has 4 million people almost, which is a lot of people.
yeah,
So so I can update some of my viewers and give them a little bit of a brush of what your book is about, and we'll have you do it better than me at a certain point here.
okay,
And by the way, as we go through this pod, um, I'm going to ask you some questions about your book, and there might be some parts of it that I take a devil's advocate position to. It doesn't mean that I'm critiquing your ideas or anything like that. I'm just kind of going to apply a little bit of scrutiny to some of the ideas and see what you have to say about ththose things and stuff like that. But at the
great.
end of the day, I want you to know that I think your ideas are good. I think that in theory, a lot of them are good, and all I'm going to be doing is just discussing them with you a little bit and seeing what you have to say about some of the opposing views that might come to some of your ideas.
Yeah, I'm
So,
excited.
yeah. So basically, yeah, your book, in your book, you critique a lot of modern society. You talk about how we we are creating these urban environments instead of creating villages and things along those lines. And you critique roadways, you critique corporations, things like that. And that seems to be something that you're really passionate about. And the book is all about that. And so ultimately, do you believe that like there's too many people on the planet? Like, or do you believe that the village idea is a scalable thing? That because yeah,
Yeah, so I don't think there are too many people on the planet. I think
okay,
that we're being extremely inefficient with our design and resources, and we keep blaming it on our children for existing. And I do think that the village model is scalable because it's like a flower. The way that a village is designed is sort of, you have a strong pistil of economy, and then it like flows out from there, and then you can start again. And the problem with suburban design is it's like a flower cut in a vase. Everything surrounds one freeway system,
yeah,
because of car dependence. That's the way that we're creating things. You have housing that has to use a car to get out of it, and the freeway is the avenue for you to leave your residential area and go to your livelihood. And there just comes a point where you can't expand anymore for the level of cars that are coming into that area. It's much too expensive, even to begin with. But to expand it is literally billions of dollars that cannot be paid back there unless you want to be told. I just think that people don't understand how expensive car infrastructure is. If you were actually paying the taxes on the infrastructure that you keep promoting, it would probably quintuple. Like you, it's too much money.
if you
So it's
sorry,
not
just let me
sustainable.
jump back to that. So you said if you were actually paying the taxes on the infrastructure, there would be enough money to do what you propose, kind of thing. Is that what you're saying? Like, I didn't quite get that part.
Sorry, car infrastructure is extraordinarily expensive.
Yeah,
And
roadways and
it's
stuff. You're talking to like what's interesting about me and you, right? Is because you're talking to a civil engineer. So like I am, in a sense, I'm very passionate about modern day society. So like I feel we've
That's
done
good to
very
know.
good. Yeah, like so whatever. So we I feel as though we've done a good job, kind of trying to, even if you consider today's world as like a bit of a rudimentary way of us. Okay, we just got to have, we've got all this population. We've got to try to give a medium quality of life to all these people. So we've
Hmm.
created what I guess I would have called an efficient setup. But at the end of the day, so you believe that we should not have these metropolises, right? So metropolises are kind of like, I believe that too. I think that the big cities can make people sick in a lot of ways. But I worry about, so in terms of some of your ideas, I just worry about the idea of like how could we have so many villages? We would spread them all out. We could spread people all out, but it just how it tell me how that would happen.
So what I'm trying to do is take already built neighborhoods, suburban neighborhoods, and pull the economy away from the commercial district and give it back to the people. So instead of relying on Costco and Walmart, you're now more relying on local neighbors, local farms. Everything is kind of built around self-sufficiency. And it's not that I'm anti-corporation, it's that the suburban setup creates an imbalance between consumer and individual where you are now only a consumer. You are no longer a community member because there is no community. And
Yeah.
I talk about this in my book that over time, uh, the suburbs degenerate socially because you have to have organic connection. And if you're not going to your own little bakery, if you're not walking to school with your children, if you're not buying shoes, and brushing shoulders with people that are in your area, you're just actually not going to know them. And this is part of the reason why Gen Alpha and Gen Z are totally oblivious to a lot of social things, and they just lose desire,
Yeah.
especially when we have, technology
Yeah.
that comes and replaces it.
Yeah, phones can
So
be a real sickness right there. If I can just jump in, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I worry about the supply chain because I feel like resources aren't necessarily spread out, and you're always going to have to get those semis, like bringing stuff around. I'm not really sure about how if you could give that consumerism to the suburban neighborhoods and take it away from the corporations. I just wonder if that supply chain, because that we have this modern supply chain that's some would call it sophisticated with how we get things to these grocery stores so that thousands of people can access them. Because that local bakery idea might break down when you have 10,000 customers instead of 100 or something like that. But one thing I'm really curious about before we come back to the actual context here of your book is how long did it take you to write your novel? And did you write any others before this one?
I wrote, no, I haven't, just the NaNoWriMo thing that I didn't actually finish. I wrote this book in 6 weeks, and then I edited it for the next year and posted it really close to when I started it around December. I started in October and finished in December. And it's really taken off. I just talked to Charles Marone, if you know who that is,
No.
in his podcast Strong Towns. He's picked up my book, and I'm going to be doing one of their Friends of Strong Towns book club. This is the book. My book was the book he picked this year to share with people. So I think that what I'm trying to say is that people are really resonating with the idea of kind of not totally escaping modernity. I don't think we could. I don't think we could get rid of technology. At least I wouldn't reach a general audience in this way, because they like a lot of comforts. And so what a village really is just a localized, walkable, mid-density municipality where the comfort level of suburbanites are kind of getting everything that they're getting now, but better. So when you talk about supply chains, it's not that I'm trying to destroy all of our supply chains by creating only self-sufficient villages. It's that the balance of power and economy is in both groups. So we have these localized walkable municipalities that are pretty self-sufficient, and if something were disastrous to happen, they could survive and take care of each other. Maybe not super comfortably, but they could. And that's really not what's happening right now. You look at COVID and people were really scared, like how are they going to get bread and eggs and diapers for their children?
Yeah.
And Walmart had all of that power. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's like we have to actually turn away from this corporate model. We have to have local communities again because we are extraordinarily vulnerable to political tyranny and corporate tyranny when they have all of the power and we have no economy.
Yeah, that's a hard fight. It's really tough to take on the billionaires. I mean, and they do have all the power right now, and in a sense, it's like we want to try to avoid that tyranny, but we are kind of already in the thick of it. Like, what can
Yes,
we do? What can we do? Like, as much as I'd like to say, so the obvious critique, yeah, your book was great, by the way, and so is a lot of your content. I can definitely see how it's resonating with a lot of people, and congratulations on that, like, and all your success. And
thank you.
you seem to be doing great. Well, let me just go into a few critiques, because
All
you're
right.
doing great, and you have a great family, it seems, and a great life and all that type of a thing. Yet you still have a bit of a Californian mindset. I know Utah's a little bit kind of over there, and it's like I want to get on board with you, but yet it's like, at what point are we satisfied? It's like, when can we be like, okay, well, I'm going to carve out my own story, and everybody else is going to make their own decisions. It's like, because at the end of the day, we're going to have metropolises, and I know from where I live, right? We do have these small towns, like, and people are happy. And if you want to be in a smaller town, more of a village, you can kind of just move there. And I worry that maybe in Utah, like, did you grow up your whole life in Utah, or did you live anywhere else?
I've lived a lot of my life in Utah from about 13 and on, but I've lived in about 13 states
Oh, okay.
before that period.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Yeah, hey,
mhm.
maybe become a Canadian. Come and check it out up here, because like, we do have these little village mentalities, and there is a lot of connection. The thing is just there ends up being a lot of downsides to the smaller town community style, that people, like, if we could just even shift this over to, let's say, kind of from the housing crisis perspective. You see all these people that are like, I can't afford a house and all this type of stuff, but they aren't, they're just looking at the city they were born in, and they're like, oh, I want to live in Vancouver. It's like, okay, but you can also go and live in a small town where you can get a house for 50K. You
Mhm.
just don't want to, because you're a little bit isolated. Maybe there isn't work there, which, again, that would be promoting your ideas, which there should be work there. But there isn't, because the corporations dominate a lot of that, and people work, the jobs are in the big cities. So, but it's just like, whether you look at it from the perspective of a bunch of things, whether you look at it from the perspective of, let's say, global warming, because they freak out, they go, the sea is rising and all this type of thing, and it's like, okay, but move from the edge then. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if you don't like the metropolis, move from the metropolis. Like, we have that freedom of autonomy to just go and find the place that will be what you want to live in. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
like I was saying, sorry, I'll give you a chance here. It's like, the obvious critique of your stuff would just be, it's a little bit utopian, and it's like, how can you reconcile that critique?
Great. Do you have any children?
No, I don't. I'm 33, and I do not have any kids.
Okay. No worries. I just wanted to know. So, at the end of my book, I have a fourth section, and there's a couple of things that I can comment on what you just said, but it's actually for the rising generation. I have an entire section on children, on mothers and fathers, and the needs that are not being met with our current children, that they are suffering immensely, and we are actually not even aware of how much they are suffering because of our behaviors and because of our ideas about children. So, for me, my book is actually all about families. That is the avenue that I am trying to recover, and I'm doing it through urbanism to create spaces where families, mothers, fathers, grandparents can thrive. And my ultimate goal is to create a multi generational culture.
Yes.
So, right now, it's not even I don't even think it would be possible for me to sort of move away and find what I'm looking for, because it's not that I'm trying to like plop down little villages everywhere. It's that I'm trying to literally shift the paradigm of building values.
Yeah.
So, right now, all value, all code, all of it is designed for a vehicle. So what happens is that, you know, the United States starts to kind of look like a parking lot.
Yeah.
We're not building for children anymore. So the biggest problem with that is that my children can't develop the way that they need to, because they don't have walkability. And walkability is really not a utopic uh, cause. It's just a human cause. All of history, all of world history has utilized walkability. And it's not that walkability is going to give you your utopia, but it's that car dependence literally can't.
Yeah, well, it definitely combats obesity, which is probably the biggest problem
Yeah.
in modern day society. But it is a bold claim. It's funny, you're answering all my questions on my list here before I can even get to them, like what your goal is and that type of a thing. But you are ultimately, you're taking on one of what many people would say is the greatest invention of modern society, which was the car. And
hmm
and yeah, you promote the walkability thing model. And sorry, please continue.
Yeah, so I'm not anti car. I'm just anti car infrastructure. I do not believe that all design should be geared towards vehicles. It's extremely disabling for children, for the elderly, for the disabled. Pretty much our infrastructure only cares for the able body. And I have a huge problem with that because that means me as a mother that I am now ostracized from society in a lot of ways. It used to be that women were a part of society, they had home economies, they could work with or near their children, they could walk with their children. We basically given up carrying children because it is so incredibly inconvenient. I have seen carrying babies become more popular in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 years, but it just wasn't known. Like it didn't even occur to people to have carriers unless they were like going hiking. And babies need to be held about 70-80% of the time to develop healthily. And
Hmm.
American babies, I don't know about Canadian babies, are being held 25% of the time.
Oh,
And a lot of that is because they're in buckets and they're in cribs, and we just don't think to pick them up.
yeah, yeah,
So we're only picking them up when we think it's convenient for us. And so car infrastructure is extremely difficult for women and children. And I think that um, that is the reason why we have a war on motherhood, because the suburban dream was like, you are now going to be in a house with only a house, there's no society around you, and you will be the domestic blissful wife and mother, and you will do the homemaking stuff and not anything else. And if you leave to work, you are abandoning your children, you are a bad mother. And I reject both of those premises. There is no working mom versus stay-at-home mom. All of human society has just been mom. There, whether she was working or not, she was a part of community, and and she was seen, and so were her children. And we've gotten into this, I like to call it like bluey mindset, where women are just supposed to stay at home and do nothing else, and it's actually not helping children, and it's actually stigmatizing children and creating narratives for why women shouldn't have children. And I just say this because you don't have any children, which is fine. I totally understand. But when I had children, and I'd been listening to all the wars around motherhood, and I was like, what is it? What's going on, right? Isn't motherhood wonderful? But I really wanted to be a mother. And so when I had my first baby, I was like, oh, this is why.
okay,
American society is not built for mothers and children whatsoever. Like, it is incredibly difficult. And for the standard of care that I wanted to provide my children, it's actually impossible without community. So I
yeah.
ended up moving in with two other families
Oh, wow.
so I
Okay,
could. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because your contention is that the suburban design is very isolating, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And so you live with multiple families in kind of one unit. Hey, are you religious? Are you Mormon, or are you Christian or Catholic, or
Yeah. I'm a Latter-day Saint,
okay? What's
Mormon.
that? Well, tell me about that.
So it's Mormon.
Oh, is it?
The
Oh, okay,
the
sorry.
actual name of my church is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day
Of Latter Day
Saints.
Saints. Okay, got you. Sorry,
So
I'm not the most.
Mormon,
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Mormon. There's like a point where our church kind of adopted the nickname, but Mormon is actually a derogatory term that was
Yeah,
used by people to persecute us, when the church was first starting.
got you.
So there was a point where we were like, yeah, we're Mormon, but we've rejected that now. We're just using the full name. So
Totally. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, sorry for my ignorance. I didn't mean to didn't mean it as a pejorative. I was just
no word.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
I
I'm
know.
not very religious. I grew up I guess Catholic. I have two mums, so I never had a traditional family unit. I have two
Oh,
mums
that's so
who are,
interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
and but they are still religious, even though kind of religion
Hmm.
frowns upon that. So
Yeah.
from a very young age, I was quite critical of religion, and you'd think I'd know more about it, but
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. And yeah, I mean, yeah, there is a kind of a negative view towards Mormonism these days, that um, polygamist or things along those lines. But really, it is more of a community based religion.
Yeah.
Um, And your experience with it has been positive so far in your life. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't think there's a more beautiful doctrine on the earth, a more logical or beautiful doctrine on the earth.
Yeah.
It's our God, the Latter Day Saint God, or the Latter Day Saint Jesus, is extraordinarily kind and
Oh yeah,
merciful.
for sure.
There
Um,
are heavens for everybody,
yeah.
shall I say? There's
Yeah.
not really a hell for us.
Yeah, fair enough. Just let me. My little kitty is just bopping on my studio door here. Just let me let her. Just one moment. Because there was that one. I know that there was that one presidential candidate who was, and they really came after him. Almost his Mormonism. Some could say that his Mormonism almost was what made him lose the presidency. Mitt
Mitt
Romney?
Romney.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, like,
Yeah.
if we can, I don't know. I'm not sure because I'm a comedian. I'm not sure how much I can joke around with you because you're a very serious thinker. But
Oh,
so like,
no worries.
or how political you'd like to be because you're a published person. I don't want to get in the way of any of your ideas in that or paint you in any type of ways that you don't want to. So
No worries.
yeah, like
I've had many political and religious discussions. It's actually
wonderful.
something
Yeah,
I enjoy doing. So
isn't it interesting how some people aren't able to have? There is literally a class of people who aren't able to have those discussions without them descending into complete like arguments and just a bad situation. You
yeah, it
know.
is.
So if I could ask
Yeah.
you, like, some of the current politics that are going on now, like, I imagine, do you support Trump, or what are some of your views on the current politics going on in the West today? Because I so that's the question. I just wanted to make one more comment. Would be like, because I hear you kind of saying the things you're saying about how you're not in favor of, well, you believe it's hard for the modern day mother, and you believe that women being so isolated in the suburban areas create a lot of challenges for them, which would be more of the stay at home conservative view. Yet you're saying you don't support that, but like, are you more of the feminist style, or are you more of the? I'm not sure what, because I'm not seeing the pathway to what you're saying as like, this is what I think should happen for modern day mothers. I hear you critique the stay at home, and I hear you critique the leave the home. What should mothers do? And yeah, and what's your modern political views currently?
So I feel a little bit homeless in terms of a political party right now. I guess my new political party is restoring the American village. And my view on Trump is I don't feel like Trump, I don't have the end of the world mentality with Trump. I
Good,
think
good.
that he's a president that will be
Yeah, that's
over
so
and done with.
nihilistic. There's so many people that have that very
Yeah.
nihilistic end of the world view about him, and
Yeah.
I really think that that's just like so silly to pretend that democracy is already broken and all this kind of a thing. It's like,
Hmm.
no, he was democratically elected. Unless you think the elections are completely false. I mean, come on, you're being
Yeah.
so harsh. So, are you like, are these the village idea could probably be more categorized as a libertarian view? Is that what or here?
Oh,
Yeah, I'll give you a second to take your baby off there. Um, what could
I
I
don't
say? Well,
actually know much about the libertarian. It's kind of a do what you want, right?
yeah.
It's There's less morality. Sorry.
Oh, so cute. That's a she? What is that? A she? What's her name?
Yeah, this is Evelyn.
Okay, cool.
uh, I don't think I'm libertarian. I do think that the country should have a type of moral backbone, and that should be also applied to the laws. Now, I I am now dealing with the laws we currently have. And so in my book, for example, I really want a strong culture of marriage because marriage ultimately is beneficial for children. And because I was looking for a multi-generational culture, that means that all of these ties, legal monogamy provides them. Instead
Yeah,
of being like a girlfriend, you're now the mother, the sister, the
yeah,
cousin, right? You are actually connected to people, and so I wanted that. So I'm in support of homosexual and uh,
yeah,
heterosexual marriage, just
yeah,
right because I want people to be connected again. I want there to be
yeah.
families, and
Me too. I
um,
believe that religion does really help provide that moral backbone to society. Somebody might say though, so like for example, like let's say a East Asian culture, because what some might say, they have heavy metropolises, they're highly populated, yet they have somewhat managed to achieve that multi-generational family in quite small living quarters and stuff like that with the way they are in the Asian countries. What would you say to something like that? How have they achieved that, without doing the village style? Do you think it's just a cultural thing, or
East Asia, is that what you said?
yeah, like Eastern Asian cultures, kind of like like Chinese people, and they have skyscrapers and sometimes three families living in an apartment, like right up to the great grandparents and the grandparents, and all living in one place, and they're in you know uh, tall skyscraper type situations. Is there a chance that like the village mentality can be achieved in a metropolis? Like in these skyscrapers, what if on the bottom floor you had that kind of that community area where you had like uh, a little farmers market type thing? So almost every building had its own little uh, store or something like that. Do you think that it's achievable in metropolises, or we have to spread out? Because we are kind of lucky in the West that we have so much space that we can expand horizontally and do
Mm-hmm.
this village style. Sorry, all I can think of right now is you holding your baby like that. That must be a workout. Like I feel like you must have biceps for days. Like if you hold your baby all the time like that, you probably consider it pretty good exercise, hey?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, that's one of my advice for new mothers because people don't tell you how physical
Yeah,
motherhood is.
yeah. You've
You
burned
have to
probably
get stamina.
yeah, you've burned probably 400 calories on this podcast. You haven't stopped moving the whole time. I feel like I'm lazy.
Sorry if it's distracting. It's good
No,
to keep
well,
her calm.
yeah, no worries at all. I can survive. I can survive. So,
um,
yeah,
so I do think it's possible. I am talking to a conservative group of Americans here. So if we're going to talk about like East Asia, for example, they have a totally different culture than us. They
yeah,
have, they have different building ideas. I wrote my book for Americans, anyone who
yeah,
kind of, thinks like an American or is closely tied to Americans, because for example, American conservatives hate the idea of skyscrapers. Like they don't want to live in a skyscraper. So to that question, I would say yes, absolutely. We have New York. Like New York used to be this really bubbling, thriving, family-oriented city. That's changed in a lot of ways, but uh, that's not my goal. See, if you're gonna like zone for a village and you're gonna say, okay, this municipality is a village, then I probably would cap it no more than 50,000 people because
ah, okay,
at that point people start to feel a little bit tight and cramped, and
yeah,
um,
absolutely. And that's what
it's
I'm
just a
seeing a lot.
sustainable one.
Yeah, that's what I see a lot from where I'm from as well. In Saskatchewan, there is only about two cities that have more than 50,000 people. I'm 50,000 is probably the right number that you're proposing for a cap for that type of a design for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just that they want to, they don't like the word density, right? Because we have this suburban ideal of you're going to have a single family house and you're going to get the dog and you're going to, get the pension, and now all of the pension's gone and the house is gone. And people are like, well, where's my part in the American dream? Like they can't afford homes anymore. And my solution was like, you know what? Density with cars sucks. Nobody wants to be in a condo next to a freeway. And this is always where condos end up. And so
yeah,
these young families are like, how can I get out of here?
yeah,
Because it's so difficult to raise children in a condo next to a freeway. You don't even have like public space or amenity. You just have roads and maybe a
for
park
sure, for
for
sure. And
children. It's so difficult.
yeah, absolutely. That might be where I'm a little bit privileged in that sense because, like you said, I haven't had kids yet, so maybe I'm not seeing a lot of the problems that you're seeing yet. But if I could just talk about my experience a little bit, the thing that has brought me a lot of happiness in as I've gotten a little older is really just taking pride in a lot of the little things, and because I'm sure you've seen a little bit of my social media as well, and a lot of what I do is. Even though I have training as like an engineer and all these highfalutin modern day type of professions, my greatest stuff that I've started to like as I got older was carpentry and taking pride in the little things, like, oh, I'm going to, rather than building other people buildings in the commercial space, I'm just going to focus on building my own buildings, harvesting my own lumber and stuff like that. And I believe that there is a lot of this utopia that we're hoping for. You can really achieve a lot of it within yourself and within your own community, but just by focusing on the little good things in your own life, because I really am opposed to kind of pessimistic people. I really sometimes have, because there's so many pessimistic people out there right now. I feel like we have this new movement of just pessimism towards everything. Nobody being satisfied, you know? And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, if I can comment on that,
yeah,
so I hear this a lot from especially red side of the aisle, that we just need more discipline.
yeah.
We need more discipline to be happy. We need more discipline to be social. We need more discipline in what we even buy. Like, if you're upset about the plastic infestation in the world, you just need to buy more ethically
Mm,
and
mm.
put your money where your mouth is. And
Yeah,
my view is just, that's ridiculous.
yeah, yeah.
We actually have to have systems in place that provide a quality of life that's possible. And if I want the world to not be covered in plastic, then we need to do something about the plastic production, not me as a buyer hoping that I can like put a tiny dent in the level of consumption that I'm doing. And I just don't feel like, back to your point of like, is this even sustainable to have these small places? I am infuriated that we are grinding the faces of the poor. We are not buying ethically. Like, my shirt was probably made by a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old in Bangladesh. Like, somebody had to use their hands to sew me this shirt. And these people, and this is just for clothing, these people are living in utter poverty. I was watching a video on Charlie Kirk, and he was talking to someone who was kind of upset about this. She was
Yeah.
upset about capitalism.
Okay.
And she said, capitalism is making other people poorer. And
Yeah.
Charlie was like, no, it's not. And I understand why Charlie said this, because technically he's not making another person poorer for buying this shirt. Because she was like, I bought this hat, and someone made this hat for like 6 cents a day. And he's like, well, then yeah, that's your problem, because you should have
Yeah.
bought a different hat, right?
Yeah.
The systems of suburban capitalism, and I say this because infrastructure has so much to do with the way that we spend money, is entirely about how cheap an item is. And so we will outsource our money
Yeah.
and time to people who are basically starving to make us a shirt. And we're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's fine. But in my opinion, that's not fine. And while capitalism right now, as it stands, is technically making that person richer, it is still perpetuating a system of poverty that they may never be able to escape from. And
Mhm.
I have a serious problem with that. Like, I want to be able to buy milk without knowing that the jug is going to be sitting on somebody's beachfront in the ocean. I want to be able to buy a shirt that was actually decent quality. Like, I would rather have much less clothing that was, I believe, was ethically made and is good quality than buy a cheap shirt from Ross that I know was made by a child
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Cambodia. And
Yeah.
and that's why it's so important for me to have these local economies, because like in the 50s, for example, a woman had like 5 to 6 dresses for the whole year, and that was normal. And we've gotten to this point where we're so gluttonous. It's amazing if we even have the same clothing at the end of the year that we did at the start. And so
Yeah.
in some ways,
Consumerism is starting to run rampant a little bit.
uh-huh.
Yeah. Absolutely.
In some ways, I want the infrastructure to instigate the change that I want to see in the world. And while walkability, again, it's not a utopia, it makes it possible for me to actually even move in that direction, move in a new ideal where car dependence just won't.
But what about all the people that are already at such a point of obesity that they can't walk even a few blocks. Like somebody might say, I don't know all the exact statistics about it, but I'll bet you that a third of the population can't walk a mile. You
Yeah.
know?
So I get this a lot where people are like, well, what about people with accessibility issues? What about obesity? What about elderly that can't go places? A walkable economy is not that you have to walk.
Okay.
It just means that all of the design values in building that place you could walk, and walking was prioritized before anything else. It's a very human driven design because that's how we used to get around, was walking and cart and buggy. And uh, I I think that I have a section in my book where I'm like, it's really not about how we can get to a place. We have cars, we have scooters, we have bikes, we have electric wheelchairs. We have all of these things at our disposal now in the 21st century. And now I just need to be able to make sure I could actually get to those places on those things.
Yeah.
And so they don't necessarily have to walk, but
Yeah.
we're building for them if they could at some
Yeah,
point.
for sure. And back to you specifically, because I have a few curiosities, about you. We got a little bit nebulous there, but I'm curious more about some of the specifics to do with you as well. Like what? So you said you wrote this book in 6 weeks, and as a person, I've tried to write a book before. I got most of the way through it. I tried to write a book about. It was a fiction book, not a novel, about like what it's like to grow up when being raised by two women or in that type of a family unit. And I had a certain writing process, but it took me months even just to write the few hundred pages that I had. What's your writing process like, and how did you manage to pump out such a good book it's so quickly?
I think I was just ready to explode.
Yeah, that
I,
is what it feels like. Yeah,
yeah, I had all of these ideas and I was so frustrated, just immensely frustrated, and I couldn't let it go. And I didn't know how to solve it, and there had to be a way to solve it. And then I was introduced to urbanism, and it was like the final piece of the puzzle.
yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness,
Well,
environment
well,
has
kudos.
so much to do with it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
kudos to you for taking all that pent up energy and trying to funnel it, at least like doing your best to funnel it into a positive you know avenue, and funneling it into a book, trying to help people, because that's what I like most about art, whether it be comedy, the spoken word, or the written word. Is I really do think it's people that are trying to help others, and that really should be the primary goal of any art.
Yeah, I agree. The
Yeah,
art has the ability to transform hearts where normal
yeah,
avenues wouldn't.
yeah, and
You know?
shift the paradigms, just like what you said, right? And that's your
Yeah,
goal, because that's really all we can do nowadays. Because we have everything is so set into place, and
yeah.
it's really, sometimes it feels like, how can we even change anything? Because like somebody, like Disneyland, for example, like that
Mm-hmm.
was like, I do that there was a time where that was a utopian place, like, and then yet there's all these attacks on Walt Disney nowadays as like a racist and all this crazy stuff, when really, like, that's what they're doing now. Did you know that they're creating Disney villages? Like they're these kind of yeah, yeah, they're these kind of utopian little communities that are just within themselves. Because naturally, if these ideas progress, I'm just going to say, like, kind of a bit of a facetious type of like, somebody might take your ideas and go, this is racism. They might go, naturally, these type of ideas aren't going to be accessible for urban populations, people that like, because like, it's there is all a spectrum of people, whether it be their intellectual capabilities or their economic capabilities, that just won't have the ability to even participate in these types of communities. Like, somebody might talk about the policing challenges when you spread people out so much. And but I guess your reply to that would probably be that you end up having more of a community. You don't need police so much, I guess, when every single member of the community is like a police officer in a sense, or something along those lines. Is that?
Yeah, that's true. In terms of like intellectual economic capability, I think what a strength in my book is just the hope that it grants for anybody and everybody to cut red tape and
Yeah,
take back control in
yeah,
their own community. So, can you open a little soap shop
Exactly,
in
because
your
like as
home.
mine like as much as I love, sorry to interrupt, as much as I love
Yeah.
your ideas of like, because like I was saying, I love the idea of building all of these little skills, and really I found the most good feelings in my life from building all these little skills that I never thought would be so great, like carpentry or sewing or learning how to cook really well, and all this type of stuff. It's so rewarding. And but there is a lot of people like, gosh, I do, I don't mean to be mean to the people I know and that surround me in my life, but there's a lot of people that just simply aren't capable. They don't want to go and learn how to cook really well. They just want to order their Uber Eats, call it a day, you know.
Hmm.
And I just don't know what those people. So I guess naturally you just have to, it's segregation. You know, you have to, they can go to the cities and live how they want to live, and then other people can live over here in the villages how they want to live. And I guess that would be all you can do, right? So would you say that you're ultimately promoting kind of segregationist type of infrastructure ideas,
No.
or is that too hot of a word? Is segregation too?
Segregation's pretty hot.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough,
um,
fair enough.
but because I'm trying to, so people are like, well, what's your ideal density? For me, I'm actually not quite sure what my ideal density is. But again, we're coming back to this idea of like, I'm literally trying to change the values of how we're building. So instead of saying, okay, we're going to start with a road and then we're going to build everything around that road, we're like, okay, we're going to start around people and businesses and we're going to be able to see if they can walk to them. And and then we'll start connecting people with trains and trams and cars and everything else so that people have the choice to move around. So the idea of like segregation, uh, it's just more that your community is building what your community needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And for people who are just like unwilling to participate, hopefully my goal would be that like 70 to 80% of Americans would be like, yeah, I don't want this anymore. Because I'm all about free markets. I'm about people having choice.
yeah,
So if like the majority of Americans want to do that, then fine. What I'm saying, I guess, is that every village, every municipality is going to look different and is going to have different priorities and different cultures. That was another thing I wrote, that walkability provides culture again, whereas suburban environments drain culture and turn you into a consumer. And so I guess I'm not. If we just look at Jane Jacobs and the way that she talked about New York, people, when they were living in slums, if they were allowed to do walkable zoning and walkable qualities, then they actually took themselves out of slums. And so, and that was just because like the Irish were just buying homes, like apartments next to each other. So like families were literally like buying whole apartments bit by bit by bit until they were basically owning the street. And
hmm,
so that's kind of the goal, is like you have a community that wants to be with each other, that values the same things, and you start building walkable places where children are free to roam again and people have their businesses handed back to them. They're not being completely squashed by Walmart. And that was another thing, is that small businesses can't thrive next to Walmart. They can thrive in walkability, but they can't in Walmart, in the commercial district with Walmart, because the
yeah,
only thing that matters at that point is price.
yeah, for sure.
But there's so much more that a small business can offer a community than just price. And to them, that's worth it, because the macro cost of walkability is much cheaper than the micro
Yeah,
cost of car infrastructure.
absolutely, absolutely. You know, but one of my favorite things to do is one of my favorite things about corporations is they're easy to steal from. So, like, if you want, you can just pop into a Walmart,
Yeah.
just pop into a Walmart and just walk right on out with whatever you want, and you know they're not going to get you for it. So,
Yeah.
there's one positive to corporations. I don't know.
I think that corporations are really good at doing things to scale, where they can do things super
Yeah,
quickly, right?
yeah,
But now, if they're competing with local economies, because they're competing with walkability, is what's going on. So
yeah,
if you have a farmer's market, or you have a general store and they're providing a lot of fruit from the local areas, local farmers, local bees, then they have to be like, okay, how can I
yeah,
actually compete with them
yeah,
driving to me versus I can just walk a
yeah,
couple blocks and get fruit,
yeah.
you
When
know?
they're using that modern capitalist mentality of like really they identified the problem as effort. Like the Walmarts and the Costcos, they're like, okay, we need to reduce the amount of effort that the average consumer needs to do to provide that moderate quality of life, and they attacked it right at the heart. And again, though, that's what where you're promoting this idea where, and as much as I would love it, right? Like I would love it if people were all willing to put more effort into those things. But it really is, it can be seen as a bit of a losing battle because people don't want to put in more effort. They want to put in less effort. And, that's the tough part. That's the tough part, hey?
I think that's the reason why I'm trying to get it built into our environments, because if I just talk about my health chapter, the level of discipline that you have to stay healthy in a suburban setup, it's too much.
Okay.
I'm okay, sweetie. I'm just sitting here. Because if a place is walkable and walkable, like I can get to work on a matter of a 10-minute bike ride and then a 10-minute tram ride, then I actually am just getting to work by using my feet. And that's so good for me. And it wasn't like a huge effort. It's just built into my life. And that's the same thing with like social stuff. And from you, I just keep hearing like, well, they need to try harder. They need to be less convenience driven. They need to be blah, blah, blah. And I just don't think it's not even something we should consider, because of course we will always go towards the most convenient thing. I think the majority of people will do that. Yeah. And so there comes a point in modern society where we've made everything convenience. And now we say, okay, but now we're hurting and our health is hurting and our relationships are hurting and our families are hurting and our wallets are hurting. So how can we build an environment where the discipline doesn't come from me, it comes from the infrastructure itself? Yeah. That I think is something we have to be way more deliberate about now, living in the modern age of AI, and say, how are we going to create environments that matter, environments that help us feel happy, healthy, and fulfilled?
For sure. And yeah, you're doing that. Well, with that, I'll just say, I'll let you get back to your day. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing some of your ideas. And anybody out there watching, if you want to find her book, you can find it, probably for sale online and on many of the corporate, like, does your book sell on Amazon? Or
it does, of course it does.
Okay. Well, yeah. Don't focus on that, people. Just do what you can. And yeah, go buy her book. Love Letter. Is it Love Letters or Love Letter to Suburbia?
Yeah, it's a love letter to suburbia. And my audiobook, I just found out, is on almost every platform.
So. Good. That's more my speed. I don't like reading. That's probably why I didn't get all the way through it. I much prefer audiobook. So yeah, go get her audiobook. Go buy her book, everybody. Support her. And this is Diana Alisa. Yeah. Also go check out her Instagram at Diana_Alisa. And any final words from today?
No, I just appreciate some of the pushback. I'm sure you brought some questions that people have been wondering, even, as my followers, and love to talk about it. So thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I hope we can do this again someday. I hope your book gets on the New York Times bestseller list or the Utah Times bestseller
there
list.
There you
go.
Or
whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Just go subscribe to my YouTube if you can, guys. And got more podcasts to come. And yeah, that's it. That's Canadian Talk.
Thank you.
Okay.